Alright, so today I wanted to go over, and sorry there's pollen in the air, and so my voice is very low today, but I wanted to go over my Chieftain whistles and do just a quick run through of them and compare them to some others that I have. So let me start with the, and before I say that, I want to preface this. Anything in comments that I make about whistles, whistles are very personal. What people like and what people don't like, and how, like, playing characteristics. Some people like really easy blowing whistles, some people like hard blowing whistles. So I try to be objective about it. But if sometimes my personal opinion creeps in a little bit, just take it and keep in mind that somebody likes the way these whistles play. Because they built them, right? So Phil Hardy likes something about how each one of these whistles play, and that's why he made them the way that he does. So if a whistle's not for me, it doesn't mean that it's not for someone else. So that being said, let me start with the Soprano D, and I want to go over real quick. This is the D, the C, the B flat, and then is A whistle. And you can see these are all, you may not be able to see, but these are all the same tube size. And the hole sizes are different. If you can see the D on the left, on my left, over here, the holes on them are almost the same size as the A holes on some of the larger A holes, which is very interesting. And I know that sounds terrible, but anyway, it's the result of the way that he's manufactured these is that each one of these whistles plays differently. I think the D and the C play similarly. They're both very powerful whistles. But anyway, so here's the D, the Soprano D, or Mezzo D. So very robust sound. It's loud at the top, and it's louder overall. So here's my Carboni. So you can see there's versus it is a loud whistle. So although I'm not really sure how do I do that to myself? Yeah, I'm not a big high whistle guy. But I mean, there's part of me that really likes, especially this first. There's a huskiness, a low whistle-like characteristic in there. So anyway, so here's the D, or the C whistle, Mezzo C. C has smaller holes than the D, and it's definitely mellower at the top. It's not quite as loud, it feels like a little crisper. Just a little on the ornamentation and stuff feels a little crisper, and I think that's kind of a characteristic of smaller holes. So the D feels big and open, and the C is a little more closed off, but definitely a little more. It's a more mellow whistle, which is characteristic of C's. Anyway, so then I've got the B flat, Chieftain. So the ornamentation on this one is also very crisp, and it shares very similar hole sizing to the C. And I feel like for the bore size, I feel like this is kind of the optimal, at least in this configuration or this with this design. I feel like the B flat kind of is optimized, at least again for my taste. Then here's my generation B flat. So you can hear there's a difference, and yeah, the generation actually has larger holes than the B flat. But the B flat, the Chieftain B flat has a low whistle characteristic that I like, whereas this one is more feels like a high whistle to me. And they're both nice. I feel like they're not. It's not one or the other. Each one has a characteristic. If you feel in a low whistle-y kind of mood, you can get the Chieftain, and if you want something that plays a little bit easier, a little brighter maybe, the generation is a good choice. So I said I like both of them. I plan to keep both of them. So then a half step down we have the A whistles. Now this one was really interesting at first. This also shares the same size. Bore size as the B flat, but you can see the holes are much larger, and it's got a more mellow tone, and these low notes they're not quite as stable. You can't push on them as hard, but it's just a very different whistle. It's not as bright. It sounds like this. compare that to some of my other. So on the opposite end of the spectrum is my Revial A, and this one actually reminds me a little bit of the Chieftain Soprano D. You hear that raspy. So it's a little bit, again, it's kind of, maybe it's the wide bore or the big holes or something, but it makes it a little harder for me. It just seems like a kind of a finicky whistle that takes some getting used to. In the same way, this is the low A. The D down here. It's got that rasp to it. But it's an A, so it's lower. It's very full in the first octave. So very, very robust and full. It's not the most beautiful haunting tone, but I feel almost like it's like my guilty pleasure whistle because I like it a lot. The tone is very complex and interesting, and it's got a dry sound to it, but it's just not, I don't know, it's not as open as some of my others. So again, the Chieftain A. Then, let's go ahead and pull out my Revial. So that's another good one. You can tell, let's see, low note, the bell note. So you can see the difference between those. And then here's the Goldie. It's a hard blowing Goldie. Another good one. So then, interesting. So like here's the A, and here is the G whistle. So the Alto G is significantly, again, you can fit this whistle just about inside the tubing of the G, and the G shares the same bore size as the F. And I'll show you, here's the Chieftain F Thunderbird, and so you can see the tubing is the same size, and the holes are a little bit bigger on the G, so it gives them a very different sound. So it's got a real powdery softness to it. When I first played it, it's real stable, very good on the ornaments, like real crisp. It reminds me a little bit of the V3 in that in kind of or the V5. It's got that kind of it's kind of a windier sound than a lot of the others. Not a real focused tone. But it's strong, and I really like it. So, and that was actually a surprise to me, because G whistles I kind of have a hard time with them. But let me show you. So by contrast, this is my Carboni G. So the G Carboni is very quick. It's a quick whistle, fast ornamentation, and it's a smaller hole size, and it's a very dry sound, but very crisp. Another crisp whistle, and again, these are two whistles. I don't think that they're mutually exclusive. I think this one plays a little bit more like a high whistle. It's more quick. It's not quite as full sounding. But it's got its own characteristics, whereas this G plays like a low whistle, really like a low whistle, and it's that wide bore, I guess. But I really like the high end on this one. So it's one of the things about whistles that each one has its own tone. So that brings me to the F whistle. So this one, I almost, when I was first playing it, I was like, this is like my lullaby whistle. It's very mellow, and again, it shares the same bore size with the G, and so whereas the G is full and maybe a little brighter, this one is more mellow. I think it's got smaller holes. Yeah, so it's got some slightly smaller holes, and it's a very interesting design choice. But it's different from the G, but lovely in its own way. actually reminds me a little bit of the A in the way that it plays. It's more delicate on, especially in the low end. But once you kind of dial into it, it's really nice. So you can hear the lullaby quality to it. So then I've got the Carboni F. A different design, very different sound. So, where was I? Was the F. Carboni F, the Goldie. The Chieftain again. See. So, again, fun whistle to play. Very surprisingly different from the other two whistles, two F whistles that I have. So, well, again, I didn't expect to enjoy the F as much as I do. I have other F. I have my powerful, strong F whistle, and I have my lighter, quicker F whistle. And like I said, this one just it's quick and responsive. real nice mellow tone to it, so you can hang on to it. Okay, so that brings me to the D whistle. So this is the Thunderbird D. You can see this is the, I have my V5 to compare it to, so squared off end here. That's what it sounds like. So it was not as loud as I was expecting from a whistle called a Thunderbird, but it is a little louder than the V5. To here's my MK Pro Low D. The Chieftain Thunderbird has kind of more, it almost feels like kind of a cross between the Goldie little bit more back pressure. It's less back pressure than the Goldie medium blower, but more. More, I think, than the V5. But it's got a little bit of that complexity, but it's complexity and it's also kind of muted and subdued. So anyway, but again, very different characteristics. It's always fascinating for me to just see how whistles are constructed and how the different ways that they're made affects their playing characteristics and their sound. So, and I appreciate that Phil Hardy is continuously tweaking and releasing new whistles. Like now he's got the Chieftain custom model. It's expensive if you want to try to keep up with all the latest models. But I like that he plays around with the designs and tries to come up with new things for people. So anyway, so those are the Chieftain whistles.